story today. This evening, Jagdish Tytler, former union minister, has once again found himself in the eye of the 1984 riots case storm. The Delhi High Court has rejected the CBI's clean chit that was given to Tytler in a 84 riots case and has asked the CBI to reopen and reinvestigate the case. This is a case where Tytler has been accused in the past by witnesses of being involved in the rioting that led, remember, to the killing of 3,000 Sikhs in 1984. Let's raise the big question then tonight. Have Congress leaders accused in the 84 riots got away lightly? Have Congress leaders accused in the 84 riots got away lightly? Joining me now is H.S. Phoolka. He is the man who really single-handedly has fought for the 84 riot victims, the lawyers for the petitioners. Also with me is Vikas Singh, former Additional Solicitor General, and with me Vinay Tiwari, our Managing Editor, who has been tracking this case closely for several years now. First of all, to you, Mr. Phoolka, many congratulations for the manner in which you single-handedly have pursued this case. But the point is, do you really believe that the government and the CBI in particular is serious about prosecuting the likes of Jagdish Tytler? Because this is not the first time that the court has pulled up the CBI in the context of its investigations into Mr. Tytler.
Thank you, Rajdeep. First of all, I think CBI was sincere. Because the joint director of the CBI at that time, who was in charge of the department investigating, had given a decision that the charge sheet should be filed, Tytler should be prosecuted for the murder. Right. But it is the director of the CBI who overruled that decision and said, no, file the closure report. So I think if they are given the free hand to do the job properly, then obviously they will do the job. But it is under the political influence, obviously under the influence of the government, that they turned down the decision and gave
Are you saying, Mr. Phoolka, that the officers concerned in the CBI were serious about prosecuting the case, and the government of the day, particularly in 2007, remember after CNN IBN had done a sting investigation looking at the role of Mr. Tytler, that the government of the day, the Congress government, was not serious about prosecuting Mr. Tytler and put pressure on the CBI?
That is obvious, because if the joint director takes a decision on that the charge sheet should be filed, so that means they had done the job. But when the director takes a decision, then it immediately overturns. Then they had to file the closure report.
They had to file the closure report. You know, Mr. Vikas Singh, respond to that, because the feeling has been that we are now 29 years after 84, and what is the track record? Barely half a dozen convictions when 3,000 Sikhs were massacred. The fact is also that all the top leaders, Sajjan Kumar, case is still going on in the courts. Jagdish Tytler, now we are talking of reopening the case. Dharamdas Shastri, HKL Bhagat are dead. What does that suggest about the judicial system? That it takes 29 years for a case to get reopened?
Well, Rajdeep, it doesn't reflect anything on the judicial system per se. It reflects more on the investigation being done by the police. Because the judiciary the role of the judiciary comes only when the charge sheet is filed or the final report is filed. So here in this case, the judiciary has come out, with flying colors by rejecting the closure report and saying that further investigation be done. If you see, these are cases where normally it is difficult to get direct evidence with regard to involvement of people, because these are mass killings where...
No, hold on. I accept that it is difficult to get direct evidence, but in this case there were two specific witnesses who claimed to be witnesses. At least when we had them on tape, they had clearly claimed that they had seen Jagdish Tytler at the spot when the killings were taking place. Later on, the CBI claimed that these witnesses were discredited. One of them went off to America, Jasbir Singh. He was tracked down by us. The other one, now Surinder Singh, has expired. End of the day, the question will arise that even when witnesses were available, were they seriously cross-examined and interrogated, or was the aim to get the senior politicians off lightly?
That's exactly the point that I'm making. If you see, this is the job of the police. This is not the job of the judiciary. Unless if you are clubbing judiciary and police together, right, which would be not correct. because police is quite independent of the judiciary. Police is the investigating agency. They are the ones who are supposed to do the investigation, collect the evidence, then put all the evidence together in the form of a charge sheet and make the accusation or make a closure report. Now in this case, what the CBI did was that they filed a closure report. And the judge must have seen the evidence, must have seen the record of the case, and the judge definitely is entitled to reject the closure report and say that this is a case where investigation either is shoddy or you need to do more investigation.
Let me just take that for a moment to Vinay Tiwari. Vinay, is it the police which was supposed to prosecute the case? Yes, there is a problem in cases involving mass murder to get direct evidence. But we've seen in this case 6 people only convicted when 3,000 people were killed. It suggests either complicity in some form of the police or simply that there was pressure brought on the police of the day not to go hard with these cases. What is the sense you have got in the years that you have watched these cases? Did the police not take these cases seriously enough?
Without a doubt, Rajdeep. In fact, more than one commission of inquiry has said so in the reports, that the initial 4 or 5 days when the rioting happened, there was a complicity of the police in allowing the rioting to happen, and then subsequently when the cases were first investigated by the Delhi police, there was a deliberate attempt to weaken the case. And I think by the time CBI got the case, the damage had already been done. And as I think Mr. Vikas Singh said, it's difficult to gather evidence. It becomes even more difficult when the first agency which is prosecuted the case messes it up so badly, and that's what CBI has now carried forward in the last 28 years.
In fact, that Mr. Phoolka must be the real thing that in a sense suggests that something has gone seriously wrong. We've had several commissions of inquiry. We've had the Ranganath Mishra Commission of Inquiry, and Mr. Ranganath Mishra, then Supreme Court Chief Justice, eventually becomes a Congress MP of the Rajya Sabha. We had the Nanavati Commission into it, which again suggested, where again there was no action really taken by the government of the day. What is the sense that you get that in all these years? Do you believe that the Congress government at the end of the day was out there to protect people like Mr. Tytler? Because Mr. Tytler's response is that the witnesses themselves are unreliable.
You see, this is obvious. First of all, when the Nanavati Commission recommendations come, this government reject all the recommendations. They say no case to be registered against Tytler or Sajjan Kumar.
Right.
But when in the parliament for 3 days, the opposition, even their own UPA's allies, they take on the government, only then they change the decision to register the cases. And after that, they put this kind of pressure on the investigating agency to close the cases. This is very, very obvious that the way the government is trying. But it is very unfortunate, Rajdeep. This very government is always talking about Gujarat. Yes, rightly so. The guilty of Gujarat also need to be punished. But at the same breath, they need to talk about the 84 also.
Absolutely. In fact, Mr. Phoolka, you make a very, very important point. I just want to tell our viewers, we asked Congress leaders to come on the program. We asked Mr. Tytler to come on the program. He said law will take its own course. Even the Congress spokespersons refused to come on this program today to debate with you, Mr. Phoolka. Do you, in all these years, have you tried to approach the Prime Minister himself, one of the distinguished Sikh? Have you ever tried to approach him? Did you ever try to seek his personal intervention at any stage?
You see, I met him before he became the Prime Minister. I met him few times. But after he became the Prime Minister, I have only written him, but I have not met him.
And at any stage, did you ever get a sense when you met him that he too was aware of the manner in which these cases, that the government of the day, the Congress government of the day had gone slow on it?
Rajdeep, he was conscious when I met him for the first time. It was in 1990.
Yes.
Before he became the finance minister, he was conscious of the fact that the guilty are not being punished. And in fact, I have never told this thing in the media. The first time I am saying that he appreciated me for the fight which is being carried out. And after that, whenever I met, he is conscious of, he knows everything.
You're saying an important point. You're saying the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, appreciated your fight, said he knew what was happening, and yet you are saying in the end, he appeared helpless.
This is very, very obvious. The manner in which the government has behaved under him. First rejecting all the recommendation of the Nanavati, then agreeing under pressure, then forcing the CBI to close the case. I mean, this kind of a thing. Then on the top of that, the government should now learn a lesson. That those killed, they cannot always talk about the secular, they're the secular, and then at the same very breath, I mean,
Right.
those who are killed in 84, they don't consider them the human beings at all.
You know, Vikas Singh, would you also concede that at the end of the day, what 84 shows, it reduces the Congress's moral legitimacy to talk about 2002. If you don't prosecute your own with the same severity that you demand of the others, what does it suggest? Each and every one of the individuals who was named in 84 eventually went on to become some kind of a minister or the other. Sajjan Kumar, Jagdish Tytler himself, HKL Bhagat, and there have been accusations against Kamal Nath too, and he is now the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. Would you concede that also? That it weakens the Congress's moral case?
I'll tell you, Rajdeep, actually if you analyze the problem, the real problem is that the Sikhs don't vote as a group. They don't vote, and that's why nobody is bothered for them. If they were, like you know what had happened in 2002,
yes.
The ghost of 2002 is not getting off the minds of anybody. But this 84 has been completely forgotten both by the media as well as by the political parties. And if you read Popul Jaikar's book, you know, which she has written on Indira Gandhi's biography,
yes.
She says that after the riots broke out, I drove to Rajiv Gandhi and I said that please call the army. If your mother had been alive in a similar situation, she would have immediately called the army. And for 3 days, she says, Rajiv Gandhi did not call out the army. So he let things, the status quo remain of all these killings.
I take your point, because the role of Rajiv Gandhi will also come under the scanner, particularly that infamous statement that he had made, that the earth shakes when a big tree falls. But, you know, Mr. Phoolka, pursuing specifically once again Jagdish Tytler's case, in every instance the CBI has said that the witnesses that they examined did not quite corroborate what was being claimed by you. That on November 1st, when these killings took place, Mr. Tytler was not present at the Gurdwara in North Delhi where 3 people were killed. Do you believe that these witnesses were put under pressure at some stage to change their mind when they came before the CBI?
No, you see, Rajdeep, they recorded the statement of these 2 witnesses.
Yes.
Then they recorded the statement of 20 other people whose names were given to them by Tytler. That
Yes.
these witnesses were not there. They recorded the statement of the driver of Tytler. They recorded the statements of the supporters of the Tytler. That Tytler was not there. He was somewhere. He was at home or he was somewhere else. I mean, and the other victims who froze them at New York. That's what the court has said.
Yes.
The victims who froze them at New York, they do not record their statement, say they are not trustworthy. When without recording the statement, they label them, they are not trustworthy. But they have all the times to record the statement of the driver of Tytler. I mean, this is the kind of the investigation they were doing.
This was the kind of investigation they were going. Just a minute, hold on to that thought for a moment. I want to bring in Vinay at the moment. Vinay, what therefore, you know, when Mr. Phoolka says that the CBI did not record the statement of the witnesses when they wanted to, when they should have been recorded, are there question marks then right at the very top of the CBI, and importantly the kind of people whom the CBI was answerable to, the political class of this country?
That's right. In fact, there is an honesty of intent issue. I mean, legal cases are all about your witnesses versus my witnesses. And if the CBI in their wisdom thought that recording the evidence of the driver was important enough, there was every reason for them to record the evidence of 2 other people who claim to be witnesses as well. Then it's for the court to take a call whose witness deposition has to be relied upon more. The honesty of intent is being questioned because in this case the CBI chose to go with certain witnesses and not the others who were claiming to be at the same spot. And I think that's where the problem lies.
Okay, you know, Mr. Phoolka, you as I said have waged a lone battle almost. Do you feel today helpless almost? Because I remember what happened when you were on a debate with me with Jagdish Tytler a few years ago. You made certain direct accusations, and Mr. Tytler then eventually filed a defamation case against you. In your experience?
No, I have filed a defamation.
You filed a defamation case against him. Because he threatened you in that program.
It was on your program.
Yes.
Yes, he threatened me. So I have filed a defamation plus also the case of the threat to life.
That's right. You filed the defamation case on threat to life. But do you believe that at any stage that the system itself has protected the likes of Jagdish Tytler? That you believe that you have had to fight a lone fight, and that is the difference in a sense between 84 and 2002. In 2002, India's first major televised riot, there has been much more pressure from human rights activists, from civil society. While in 84, do you sometimes feel almost like you fought a lonely battle?
Rajiv, today I am not helpless. Today I am quite hopeful.
Right.
If this part of the system is trying to protect them, there is another part of the system which is trying to bring them to book. Today's judgment has generated a lot of hope that now at least some justice will be driven to the victims, at least some of the guilty is likely to be punished.
But even after 29 years, you retain that hope, because the fear is the evidence has been destroyed. The fear is that after 29 years, to actually be able to establish the sequence of events to suggest that Mr. Tytler was there when these three people were killed, or that he knew about this or had knowledge or instructed them, will be difficult. Do you still believe 29 years later that there is hope? That with the Congress government still in power at the center and in Delhi, that action will be taken?
Yes, I am sure that when the matter goes to the courts will consider these factors, that this is a dishonest investigating agency earlier who didn't register the case. The delay is not on the part of the victims, the delay is on the part of the police force who was dishonest, like earlier said, who didn't even record their statements. The courts will consider this fact, and I am still quite hopeful that we will be able to at least secure the conviction for the people like Tytler and Sajjan Kumar.
Well, I hope, Mr. Phoolka, more power to you, because as I said, you've been a virtual single-man army when it comes to the 84 riot victims. I appreciate your joining us, Vikas Singh, Vinay Tiwari, on that other big story tonight. Let's take a break at this point, come back with much more news.